The next speaker is a good friend. He's a legend in the industry. I run his fan page. I think it's over 1 million. Joe, Joe, let me give some time. I got to build you up. In all honesty, Joe is a force to be reckoned with in the industry. He has a professional integrity, but also just a real warmth and spirit that is a great ambassador for all our industry, the charter and vessel. And he's very knowledgeable, as you heard from the Bahamas. He made a point with the Coast Guard. Joe's background, he's been in hospitality management. If anyone knows Rick Case Enterprises, he's also been around from there, but he's also had extensive international marketing experience, and Romora Bay is very lucky to have him. I do have his fan music, but I think that's trade license, so I will not use it at this time. But without further ado, Joe Devarage, Romora Bay.
Thank you. Being that we had changed this event, I had originally planned to talk about Harbor Island, which is where our hotel and marina and resort is, that I am the managing partner. But after the storm, we realized that a lot of people had a lot of questions on the Bahamas. And so though I am still going to talk about my resort and our property and a little bit about Harbor Island, we're here today also to really talk about the Bahamas and let everybody know a little bit of an update, especially from a charter perspective and from a well-being perspective. I have today with me, as you guys, I think we had pointed out earlier, is Earl Miller. Many of you maybe know Earl Miller. He heads up the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, now the super yacht division, but for many years the vertical markets and especially what they call boating and yachting. And so Earl is responsible for getting a lot of people interested in the Bahamas over the years. When 20 years ago we first started the summer flings, where people who were just getting into yachting or buying their first boats were a little nervous about crossing the Gulf Stream for the first time. We instituted the first groups of boats. Now 20 years later, I think maybe last summer we had 8 or 9 of them, right, Earl? And sometimes up to 20, 30 vessels. And so then also, what's neat about the Bahamas is we are one big family, and though my main competitor down the street from me is Valentine's Marina, I also have with me today Ileana Spicola, whose father is one of the owners at Valentine's and works closely with me in our Marina Owners Association. And so she is also here to not only represent Valentine's, but represent the Bahamas from a marina perspective. And then I also see Obi over here as well. And Obi is with BWA, and for many years in the marina side of things in Nassau at Atlantis. And so Obi obviously represents us as well and sits on one of our boards with us in Nassau, our Marina Association. So I am going to click through here. So we had originally had entitled it Yacht Chartering in the Bahamas, and an analysis for this coming year, but we have changed it a little bit, and we're going to start by just giving you a hurricane update. The hurricane did do a lot of damage in the Bahamas, but we are here today to let you know that the Bahamas is open and that the Bahamas is doing just fine. 95% of our resorts and our marinas were untouched. And one of the issues that we're having right now is that everybody is seeing all the pictures, and they are graphics, and our hearts do go out to all of our business partners and our friends and people that work and live, especially in the Freeport and especially West End area. And then again, also in Andros. Not as many people know about Andros because it's not necessarily a huge cruising destination, especially for the charter industry. It is getting bigger, but it is a little bit more well known for its fishing and its bone fishing. But Andros and West End and the northern Bahamas are the 2 areas that were devastated, especially parts of West End. And so though our hearts go out to them, and we are working very closely with a number of organizations to help them out, and Earl is here today in our booth. If anybody has any questions about those areas, or if they had a charter that was possibly going to the West End area, we can help talk to you a little bit about when the timing is for some of those marinas to get back up and running. We have that information. But for the rest of the Bahamas, we're okay. So, obviously the Bahamas are a very, very big charter destination, especially for vessels coming from South Florida. And so we are proud to say that, a lot of our hurricane preparedness, as well as a lot of what we've gone through in the past, allowed us to be ready. It's amazing what 40 miles will do. We are in Harbor Island, is where Romora Bay is, and it is only 53 miles from Nassau. So the storm stayed to the west of us. We didn't have one branch down on my property, but went directly over, almost directly over Nassau. Nassau, luckily enough, did not get the eye of the storm. They did have a lot of damage. But for the most part, all the marinas in Nassau are just fine. The only marina that is spending maybe 2 weeks finishing a few things they wanted to do is going to be Albany. But Atlantis is open, Baker's Bay is open, and what are the other ones open? Palm Cove. Yeah, so your main big marinas are all open in Nassau. Everything is fine on Paradise Island. And then the same for the Abacos, obviously Eleuthera and Exuma. There is some slight damage been in Exuma, but everything is fine, and all the marinas are also open in Exuma. So, being the two larger cruising grounds, which is Eleuthera and Harbor Island and Exuma for charter destinations, we welcome all of you to make sure your groups are coming this year and make sure that, that the Bahamas stays as one of your top places of choice. I have a few things that I wanted to, let's see here. Am I doing this right, Bert? I can't get it to move.
I will press clicker assist button.
Okay.
Clicker assist. Clicker assist button has been pressed. There you go.
No, I want to go the other way. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so so that is the hurricane update. So we're going to get into some more of the funner chartering, cruising, yachting in the Bahamas. If anybody does, in all seriousness, have any questions on any places of port or any marinas of choice or anywhere that they were planning to do something with a charter vessel, or if they just have an interest because they know people that live there or have friends or family, or most likely friends, please don't hesitate to stop by our booth and ask, and we can give more detailed answers on that. But we're here today, though, to talk about the Bahamas and that they are open. And that is why we kind of changed the title of our speech for today. That is, the Bahamas is open, and that they were really gearing up for the 2016-17 yacht charter season in the Bahamas. A number of the more popular destinations on the charter side is Bimini, the Berry Islands, the Abacos, New Providence or Nassau, Eleuthera, which is where Harbor Island is. We have it essentially adjusted here, and then Exuma. What's unique about the Bahamas is that we, in the last, especially in the last 10 years, and for those of you who have been doing chartering in the Bahamas over the last 20 years, so much has changed. There was a time that, a 100-foot vessel was big in the Bahamas, and everybody thought that was, just monstrous, and that was, the best you could do. And it was amazing, when technology in our cell phone today, if you have an iPhone 6 or 7, the technology in that cell phone is what this, more so than what was on a bridge of a 120-foot vessel only 7, 8 years ago. And so there was a time, especially with a lot of European captains, that they thought it was still 1792 in the Bahamas, and that there were pirates running around, and that they were going to run aground everywhere. And that's just not the case. Now, at our particular marina at Romora Bay and at Valentine's, we can take vessels up to 190 feet with an 11.5-foot draft, and that's moored in a protected channelway. You can anchor down in Exuma with a 300-foot vessel. You can come into Nassau Harbor and have Obi from BWA help you out and then get you in at Prince George's Dock, with a 400-foot vessel. So there are so many great options, and I think we took a survey, I think it was going back almost 2.5 years ago. We brought in close to 20 vessels above 200 feet, 17 of which had never been to the Bahamas before. 14 of the captains of those 17 vessels had never been to the Bahamas before. So the opportunity is out there for not only for our regular charter vessels that we have been seeing come to the Bahamas for the last 10, 15 years, or so many of them that you always see rotationally, all the 112 Westports and but there's much greater opportunity for vessels that maybe you didn't think could come. And so one of the things that we welcome you to stop by and ask us about is itinerary planning. There are a number of organizations out there internally at each marina, companies like BWA, companies like United Shipping and Nassau, that really get involved in the itinerary planning that can then help you with your charters, especially if it's into areas that you did not think that maybe you could take a vessel. And there are a lot of areas that you might not be able to get into a marina, but you can definitely anchor out, and you're anchoring out in areas that are very protected. And you have to remember, a lot of these larger vessels, especially above 180 feet, they're very used to anchoring out. They're very used to anchoring out in the Med. So it's not that big of a deal to incorporate that into a trip into the Bahamas. A few of the key reasons that the Bahamas only continues to grow in its yachting, in its marina development, and especially in its charter business is, first of all, it's proximity to the U.S. Once you cross the Gulf Stream, which is only 58 miles away from either Bimini into Fort Lauderdale or Freeport into West Palm Beach, you're then on the Great Bahama Bank. You're now on, encompassing 700 islands across over 500 square miles in many areas that you're never going above 30 feet of water. It's absolutely amazing, and we have so many great locations. We will always have a value of $1 for $1 with the United States. And so that really helps in terms of, at the end of the day, our Bahamian economy is pretty much equal to South Florida's economy. When you see the highs and the lows here, you'll see the highs and the lows there. When you saw the issues between 2007 and 2011, well, we had the same issues in the Bahamas. But for the most part, most Bahamian resorts and most Bahamian marinas really came out very, very strong after 2011, with as much so as we've had a number of new developments. Albany opened up. We are about to finish up the development of a larger hotel resort in Nassau, Bahamar, and it's been held in limbo for about a year, but they've just restarted construction, and it should be completed in about a year. And though they don't actually have a marina at this point in time, there is going to be a new super yacht marina that's being built near the Hilton, which will have, 10, 11 slips for vessels up to 200 feet. And that's right near the old British Colonial. It's still the British Colonial, and they're expanding right behind there, right near where the cruise ships are. So there's a lot of great potential even in the Nassau area. I can't remember what else I put on this, so I'm going to have to kind of look here, because this was weeks ago. So yeah, I just put down some of the bigger marinas that can hold some larger vessels. Resorts World in Bimini, and though we don't often think of Bimini as a charter destination, and can have pros and cons of how Bimini changed with Resorts World, at the end of the day, it's an amazing marina, and it's probably one of the top marinas in this hemisphere, actually, and it can hold some pretty big vessels. And so that marina is phenomenal. Great Harbor Key is a very well-protected marina. It can handle vessels up to 130 feet with a little bit lower draft, I think right at about 9 feet. But once again, they get to like the 112 Westports, even up to 130s in there. Baker's Bay Marina, a little bit more private, a little bit harder to get into, but definitely a great, great destination. You just have to work with their management to book in there a little bit sooner than most places. Obviously, Atlantis, most people know about Atlantis. Albany has become a key player in the big boat business. They can handle vessels right now up to 300 feet, and many of the charters that go into Nassau are now going into Albany. Bay Street Marina has come on strong. That's where Obi's office is as a new secondary destination to Atlantis. And once again, probably, I would say in Nassau, probably the busiest place for charters at this point in time. Romora Bay Resort and Marina, which is my hotel marina, and Valentine's, which is my good friends from down the street. We're just a little bit nicer, though. Yeah. Just kidding. And then obviously getting down into the Exumas, Staniel Key, which many people maybe know Dave and Watermakers and all the good things they do down there. So. Just a couple things that we've had questions on over the last few years. I just want touch on them because, you know, every year, like last year, we had Earl speak about these things, and it was a few key points that we've worked on with the Bahamian government for the last few years that, especially in the charter industry, had a lot of questions on, especially when we were first starting VAT. So let me just briefly say it real quickly, and we can close the discussion. There is still a charter fee of 4% that does not get VAT on top of it. It is not changing anytime soon. I'll be the first to know because I head the committee up that works with the government on that. For a number of years, before they locked into our new VAT fee, which is 7.5%, many people, there was a lot of rumors out there that the VAT was going to be 15%, which would then hence would be added on to the 4%, and the charter fee would be 19%. Those are all untrue. They're not going to happen. They're not going to happen. And if they did happen, it would take a pretty big push by a new government to make something like that happen. So the charter fee remains at 4%. You must have a yearly charter inspection. We ask everybody to please adhere to those rules and laws, as we know that they're written into the MEBA contracts. If your boat is clearing in a out island destination like Harbor Island, we also know that a lot of times that the 4% isn't collected. I'm not here to say one way or the other that that's a good or a bad thing, outside to say that I know that's starting to change. We're starting to train our out-island customs and port authorities to collect that 4%. So if you haven't been paying it in the past, and all of a sudden you pull into Exuma and you didn't clear in Bimini, and you're now asked about the 4%, just be prepared and be ready to pay it. Because it is a law. It is paid in all the other countries around the world. When you go to Europe and Greece and Italy and Croatia. So the Bahamas expects to hopefully get their 4% as well. Plus Earl's here, and he's with the government, so yeah. Cruising permits and crew visa, we won't really get into them. I mean, they're still the same. They haven't changed. Cruising permits are still $150 and $300. Yeah, so it's $300 if your boat's above 35 feet. So everybody in this room, it'll be $300. Now, we get a lot of questions about tenders sometimes, and the way it works for a tender, if that tender comes into port under its own power and not being towed by a vessel, then that tender also must clear customs and have its own documentation. If it is towed in up until the point they release the boat, then it can come in as a tender. The issue that we've been running into lately is tenders have gone from 15 feet to 40 and 45 feet. So it depends on what customs agent you may get at what particular destination, which he will then consider to be possibly under power or not under power. So just be aware that though you may consider it a tender, when you get into those much bigger categories, that there might be a particular custom agent that might say differently. And really, I don't have a whole lot more. Let me just, I know we're done. Let me just go through here. And a little bit about Harbor Island, just so you know about Harbor Island. If anybody ever wants to come, please see me personally. I've got a great FIBA rate, charter rate, that a lot of charter brokers already use with me. That's one of the best in the industry at our marina. Harbor Island was rated the 2016 Caribbean Island Destination of the Year. It is famous for its pink sand beaches and just a very exclusive, unique destination for charter vessels. This is Harbor Island here. The nearest marina is actually, I think that's Valentine's, and I'm the next one down. And a little bit, just 3 or 4 pictures here on Harbor Island, our pink sands. You can go online and read about us. There's Romora Bay. Yeah. And that's about it for right now. So if anybody has any questions, I know Bert's tough on time, unless it's like a really technical question or something that's urgent. Otherwise, you can stop by our booth and see me. Thank you.